Call to order a special meeting for the normal local liquor commission. Please call the roll.
Mayor Kus,
Here?
Mrs. Lorenz,
Here.
Ms. Harris,
Here.
Mr. Byers,
Here.
Ms. Smith,
Here.
Mr. Preston, Mr. McCarthy.
Here.
First item of business is approval of the minutes of the special meeting of January 21st, 2025.
Move approval.
Second.
Changes or corrections? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Mrs. Lorenz,
Aye.
Ms. Harris,
Aye.
Mr. Byers,
Aye.
Ms. Smith,
Aye.
Mr. McCarthy,
Aye.
Mayor Kus.
Aye. That item is approved. We have two items of reporting and one action item on the agenda tonight. The first is complaints and citations as a result of liquor audits in the town. We have a number of violations that were noted, and I'll just list those very briefly. Distill LLC doing his Distill Restaurant Brew Works. ARV Breakfast and Tacos doing business as Flame and Bloom. Highland Park CVS doing business as CVS. Casey's Retail Company, number 2267 on North Linden Street. And Firehouse Pizza and Pub doing business as Firehouse at 129 East Beaufort Street. All of these were first violations and were $250 fines with the exception of one. All those fines have been paid except two people have yet to pay their fines on that. And a second violation was Casey's Retail Company, and that was a $500 fine that was issued on that. Any questions on those? Thank you. We have a liquor license application for Real City LLC, doing business as Nettie's at 1531 Fort Jesse Road, number 2. Motion
Move
for
approval. Second.
Discussion on that item. Please call the roll.
Ms. Harris,
Aye.
Mr. Byers,
Aye.
Ms. Smith, Mr. Preston,
Aye.
Mr. McCarthy,
Aye.
Mrs. Lorenz,
Aye.
Mayor Kus.
Aye.
Yes.
We have our annual liquor license renewals. There's about 120 liquor licenses under various categories. I'm not going to take the time to read all those. They're in your packet and online if people are interested in seeing that. Again, about 120. I won't read those. So I need a motion to approve liquor license applications.
Move approval.
Second.
Discussion on that. Questions? Please call the roll.
Mr. Byers,
Aye.
Ms. Smith,
Aye.
Mr. Preston,
Aye.
Mr. McCarthy,
Aye.
Mrs. Lorenz,
Aye.
Ms. Harris,
Aye.
Mayor Kus.
Aye. Those licenses are approved. Motion for adjournment, please.
So moved.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Ms. Smith,
Aye.
Mr. Preston,
Aye.
Mr. McCarthy,
Aye.
Mrs. Lorenz,
Aye.
Ms. Harris,
Aye.
Mr. Byers,
Aye.
Mayor Kus.
Aye. We're adjourned and we will start in 45 seconds.
Oh, okay.
Call to order a regular meeting for the Normal Town Council for Monday, March 17th, 2025. Please call the roll.
Mayor Kus,
Here.
Mrs. Lorenz,
Here.
Ms. Harris,
Here.
Mr. Byers,
Here.
Ms. Smith,
Here.
Mr. Preston,
Here.
Mr. McCarthy.
Here.
We'll begin with a pledge of allegiance. pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. As always, we'll start with the omnibus agenda items considered. Oh, excuse me, we do have a public commenter at the beginning of the meeting, and we have 4 public commenters at the end of the meeting. Our public commenter tonight at the beginning of the meeting is Ron Ulmer. Being well acquainted with the rules, I won't go through those again for you, Ron.
Since I haven't been to a meeting since early last fall, I'm sure you all missed me and missed my comments. So, I'm back. I hibernated for the winter. One thing I want to start out with is probably some of you were surprised to see that I was at Greg Trummel's retirement. I owned apartments in Normal for over 43 years. Prior to him coming on the staff, inspections did not necessarily go well. With him, there was never an issue. He was always polite. He was always good. And when I brought up problems to him, even not related to my apartments or other apartments, he always was respectful and took action and addressed the situation. So I just wanted to let everybody know that I really appreciated. Actually, I owned apartments before Greg was hired. Prior to that, there were some issues. Like, who was in charge of inspections before that? Actually managed apartments. He managed one of the buildings that I bought.
Ron, you're going to run out of time,
Okay.
so I would get to your
Okay,
issue.
all right. So anyway, real quick, 2 things I want to talk about. The resolution authorizing the execution of the H for Route 66 bikeway and development. I don't know, but I would like to hear if any of this is for development outside the city limits. I was a big sponsor, or not sponsor, but a big backer of the trails at the beginning. But then when Normal started putting trails out into cornfields and stuff, and neglecting roads and sidewalks, well, they always neglected roads and sidewalks. Anyway, that I found, so I just want to know some information there. As you recall, about almost 2 years ago, my wife broke her leg on a sidewalk that was in bad need of repair. And we didn't sue the town of Normal. Okay. Resolution to author the contract for the Children's Discovery Museum. Given how roads and sidewalk maintenance are slighted, I'm just astonished. I don't know what could cost $2.7 million on one floor of the museum. When I was a kid, our playground equipment in 20-some years in the suburb I grew up, LaGrange Park, it was never replaced, never repaired, nothing. I don't want that, but I see playground equipment that looks perfectly fine. I'd like to know on what year cycle you rip it out and replace it, because it seems all too often. And I don't know what in the world the Children's Discovery needs for $2.7 million when our roads and sidewalks, it's not the disrepair, it's the fact you don't even maintain them. Thank you.
We move to the omnibus agenda items to be considered with a single vote unless a council member would like to pull an item for discussion. And of course, Ms. Smith, you're first.
I did want to pull item J, and I do have some information on item H, so I'll go ahead and pull that one as well.
I neglected to say that we're removing item K from the consent agenda and placing it as item 10 on the agenda under new business, so the existing item 10 will become item 11. And there's a reason for that. It has to do with the zoning map, and it's as much of we need to approve a zoning before we approve the zoning map. So unless there's any objections about moving that, we're going to do that. Okay. Ms. Harris?
Yes, I just would like to be excused from any bills I have incurred during my duties.
Ms. Lorenz? Oh, I thought you raised your finger. Okay.
Move
Motion for
approval.
approval, thank you.
Second.
Items considered under omnibus tonight are approval of the minutes of the public hearing of March 3rd, 2025, and approval of the minutes of the regular council meeting of March 3rd, 2025. A report to receive and file Town of Normal expenditures for payment as of March 12th, 2025. A resolution to award the bid for the Delane Drive and Hale Street Water Main Improvement Project to Stark Excavating Incorporated at a total cost of $928,600. A resolution to award the bid for a truck-mounted hydraulic valve operator to Koenig Body and Equipment at a total cost of $53,113 and approve an associated budget adjustment. A resolution waiving the formal bidding process to accept quotes and to authorizing the purchase of 5 2025 Ford F-350 trucks from Bob Riding's Fleet Sales in the amount of $278,005. A resolution waiving the formal bidding process and authorizing the purchase of the installation of a dump bed for a Ford F-350 truck from Koenig Body and Equipment Incorporated in the amount of $42,564. A resolution authorizing the execution of an agreement with Mr. Craig Onsrud for the operation of the Ironwood Golf Pro Shop and private golf lessons. A resolution conditionally approving the Grove Street subdivision final plat by expedited process having to do with the property at 205 North Grove Street. An ordinance approving a settlement agreement with CMN-RUS Metronet for the early termination of its cable television franchise. Please call the roll.
Mrs. Lorenz?
Aye.
Ms. Harris?
Aye.
Mr. Byers?
Aye.
Ms. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Preston?
Aye.
Mr. McCarthy?
Aye.
Mayor Kus?
Aye, those items are approved. Item H is a resolution authorizing the execution of an amended intergovernmental agreement for Route 66 bikeway development and maintenance.
Move for approval?
Second.
Thank you. Ms. Smith?
Yes, I had looked over this information in the packet, and I had requested some clarification. And it was my understanding that this agreement is simply outlining a framework to pursue grants, and there's nothing more specific in what their activities will be. Is that correct?
That is correct. That is an agreement that we're updating. It's an agreement that we entered into in 1999 with McLean County and 5 other communities throughout McLean County: Lexington, Towanda, who else? Shinoa, and McLean, and Bloomington, and Normal. So this is just updating the 1990 agreement, and we will continue to explore grants and rely on Illinois Transportation Enhancement Funds. So
So
hopefully that answers
it's
your
not really speaking specifics to the activities that the entities pursue jointly for that Route 66 and trail extensions, correct?
Well, we have budgeted for years our local match toward expansion of Route 66 throughout McLean County. So this will continue that kind of arrangement along with the 5 other community partners and McLean County.
That's all I had.
Further on this item? Please call the roll.
Ms. Harris? Oh,
Now you have your
I
finger
do. I'll get better. Thank you. So I didn't really have a question about this, but now that a couple of things have been raised, the contribution that we and the city and the other entities contribute, our contribution is 30.9 of a local match. To the point of our commenter, are these for projects within our corporate limits or not necessarily?
Not necessarily. There are obligation for extension of the trail throughout McLean County, of which our residents use that amenity, and we all jointly participate in the cost. Mr. Cursagrosa, do you have anything to add?
Oh, okay. All right. Interesting. Thank you.
Further on this item? Please call the roll.
Ms. Harris,
Aye.
Mr. Byers,
Aye.
Ms. Smith,
Aye.
Mr. Preston,
Aye.
Mr. McCarthy,
Aye.
Mrs. Lorenz,
Aye.
Mayor Kus.
Aye, that item is approved. Item J is a resolution to authorize a contract with Ravenswood Studio Incorporated for exhibit fabrication for the Children's Discovery Museum second floor as part of an established exhibits master plan and in an amount not to exceed $2,776,775. Ms. Smith?
Move for approval.
Second.
I also understand there's been discussion about the relationship between the town of Normal and the Children's Discovery Museum. And just for clarification, we are being reimbursed by the Discovery Museum's Foundation for these expenses, correct?
We will be, yes, as we have in the past. The town has always, in their 20-plus year history of having the Children's Discovery Museum as an operation under our municipality, we enter into the contractual arrangements for exhibit fabrication and installation and even design, and then ultimately get reimbursed from the foundation as funds are raised and pledges come in and as they have the dollars. But we have been the contract holder, we incur the expense, and then we are reimbursed by the foundation.
So the town of Normal is not going to be responsible for diverting $2,776,775 from any roads or sidewalks.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Further on this item? Please call the roll.
Mr. Byers,
Aye.
Ms. Smith,
Aye.
Mr. Preston,
Aye.
Mr. McCarthy,
Aye.
Mrs. Lorenz,
Aye.
Ms. Harris,
Aye.
Mayor Kus.
Aye, that resolution is approved. We have 3 items of general orders tonight. The first of which is a resolution approving a preliminary subdivision plan for the Pine Street Commercial Subdivision at 751 Pine Street.
Move approval.
Second.
Discussion on this item. Please call the roll.
Ms. Smith,
Aye.
Mr. Preston,
Aye.
Mr. McCarthy,
Aye.
Mrs. Lorenz,
Aye.
Ms. Harris,
Aye.
Mr. Byers,
Aye.
Mayor Kus.
Aye, that resolution is approved. Item 8 is a resolution conditionally approving a final plat for the Pine Street Commercial Subdivision at 751 Pine Street.
Move approval.
Second.
Discussion. Please call the roll.
Mr. Preston,
Aye.
Mr. McCarthy,
Aye.
Mrs. Lorenz,
Aye.
Ms. Harris,
Aye.
Mr. Byers,
Aye.
Ms. Smith,
Aye.
Mayor Kus.
Aye. That resolution is approved. And item 9 is an ordinance rezoning property in the town of Normal at 404 Normal Avenue.
Move approval.
Second.
Discussion on this item. Please call the roll.
Mr. McCarthy,
Aye.
Mrs. Lorenz,
Aye.
Ms. Harris,
Aye.
Mr. Byers,
Aye.
Ms. Smith,
Aye.
Mr. Preston,
Aye.
Mayor Kus.
Aye, that ordinance is approved. Item 10 is a ordinance authorizing the publication of a zoning map.
Move approval. Second.
Discussion. We got it in order this time. Please call the roll.
Mrs. Lorenz,
Aye.
Ms. Harris,
Aye.
Mr. Byers,
Aye.
Ms. Smith,
Aye.
Mr. Preston,
Aye.
Mr. McCarthy,
Aye.
Mayor Kus.
Aye. The map is approved. Item 11 is a motion to approve reappointments to various boards, commissions, and committees.
Move approval.
Second.
Do you want to go ahead and read those before we take a vote?
I'd be honored to. We have several reappointments to various commissions. First, we have to the Bloomington Normal Transit Authority, Connect Transit, Mandaval Rao. His term expires on June 30th, 2029. To the Convention and Visitor Bureau boards, we have 2 appointments. Melissa Liebert, whose term will expire on May 5th, 2028, and staff member Beth Wisman, whose appointment will expire on December 31st, 2028. To the Planning Commission, we have Brad Ropp, whose term will expire on March 31st of 2029. We have 2 appointments to the Zoning Board of Appeals, Keith Palmgren and Josh Moyer. Both terms will expire on March 31st of 2029.
Thank you. Discussion. Please call the roll.
Ms. Harris,
Aye.
Mr. Byers,
Aye.
Ms. Smith,
Aye.
Mr. Preston,
Aye.
Mr. McCarthy,
Aye.
Mrs. Lorenz,
Aye.
Mayor Kus.
Aye. Those appointments are approved. We have 4 commenters at the end of the meeting, public comment. First speaker is James Moldovan. Just to give you the rules of public comment, if you state your name for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
Hello, my name is James Moldovan. I've been a resident of Bloomington Normal for over 20 years now, and I'm here to support HB 3687. Rising rent is pushing nearly half of Illinois renters to pay over a third of their income on housing, with 26% paying over half. I personally know 2 people who are close to me that are paying over half their income in rent. McLean County is deeply impacted, with 31% of renters facing this severe burden. Rent has increased 55% since 2019, making Illinois the 4th highest state in the nation for rent hikes. This crisis isn't just financial, it leads to evictions and homelessness. Each year, McLean County sees more than 750 eviction filings, and nearly 57,000 are filed statewide. Unlike other states, Illinois cannot limit rent increases due to a statewide ban influenced by real estate interests. HB 3687 offers a solution. The bill would allow communities to lift this rent control ban established in 1997, enabling local governments to set fair limits on rent increases. HB 3687 also strengthens renter protections against landlord retaliation when tenants request safe housing. Before the April 1st mayoral election, we are looking for candidates who will publicly stand with renters and commit to supporting HB 3687. If you want our votes, we're looking for you to speak up for fair housing policies. Jane Moldovan with the Ban Coalition. Thank you.
Next speaker is Andrew Franson. Did I get that right? Franson.
It works. I hear a lot of different pronunciations of it. It works for me. Hi. So my name is Andrew Franson. I'm a freshman at Illinois State University. I'm also here to announce my support for HB 3687 and also call specifically on you, Mayor Kus, to speak on this issue. You know, 31% of renters are in this crisis, and more than a third spend their income on rent. Now, as a student, I love the town of Normal. I love the town of Bloomington. This is what I would feel to be my second home. And, you know, wanting to move down here, one of my first steps would have to be buying an apartment. However, with the way that rent prices are, I cannot do that. I want to stay in this town and provide a benefit for not just the town of Normal, the town of Bloomington. I want to be an educator and teach the students here. And having rent prices this high is something that now that I want to move down here, it's just not going to be possible for me. And also, too, and again, more directed at Mayor Kus than anything, is that the local elections, as you know, are coming up. And unfortunately, Illinois State University has not been actively advocating for local elections. And I have been working with local political organizations to encourage local elections. So I hope to see the City Council of Normal at least give a push for students to get involved in local elections. Local elections historically have low turnout, and the 40% of the population of Normal is students. So, you know, we want to have a say in local government, but unfortunately, when students are not able to have access to specific resources to vote or learn about the candidates, et cetera, unfortunately, they're not going to vote. So it's time for not only the representatives on this council to announce their support for HB 3687, it is also time for this council to acknowledge that students are a key part of this community. And at the end of the day, if you want to represent your community, you need to talk to us, 40% of the population. Thank you.
Next speaker is Rebecca Mangels.
Good evening. My name is Rebecca Mangles. I have a master's degree in communication from ISU as of August of 2024, and right now I'm spending a majority of my income on rent. I teach at multiple universities, including Millikan University and Heartland Community College. I also work retail for supplemental income, and I run my own nonprofit. I am not able to afford the rent prices in Bloomington Normal, and I'm also calling on the council to support HB 3687. This is because the rent prices have simply become unaffordable for alumni and students like myself who have maybe gone to ISU. We want to continue living in Bloomington Normal and contributing to the community through things like our nonprofits, our business ideas, but we simply can't because we can't afford rent. We can't afford to eat. I recently bought my groceries on a credit card, and I can assure you this is not due to lack of employment, as I work 4 different jobs and sometimes extra side gigs just to make rent. So this is a problem that is permeating our community, and we really want to be able to see the council support something that is very, very important to us as a community of students and alumni who are simply unable to afford the rent prices. And so support for HB 3687 would allow us to lift that ban on rent control, which is currently statewide present over Illinois. We want to be able to lift this ban so we can continue living here and supporting the community. Thank you.
And our last speaker is Sonny Garcia.
Good evening. My name is Sonny Garcia. I live in Bloomington. I know some of you guys may know who I am, but I'm a longtime organizer and activist here in this community. 2 weeks ago, I was hired as the Lift the Ban Coalition McLean County organizer. That's why we got people here. Last week, we were in Bloomington. This is an issue that is around the county. As the speaker spoke earlier, we would like you guys to pass a resolution in support of 3687 so we can pressure our state legislators to lift the ban on rent control so we can get the cost of housing under control in the state of Illinois. Every city and municipality will have their own version of this. This isn't going to be blanket, but we want to make sure that we are at least talking about it and opening the door to have the discussion about what that's going to look like in Normal, what that's going to look like in Bloomington, and what that's going to look like in McLean County. As some of the speakers also spoke of earlier, students here at ISU are immensely impacted by this. I don't know if you guys are talking to them on a regular basis, but students in a dorm are like pretty much placed in lounges, like a barracks, and because they can't afford housing, if they want to live in dorms, this is the conditions that they got to live in because they are lack of housing on campus as well, and so they're stuck paying these high rents, their parents are stuck paying these high rents, which is me. On a personal note, my daughter can't afford housing here. She's living with me now. She's lived here for the last year with me, so this is also very important to me that we get housing costs under control. We are organizing the students. We are organizing the renters in this community. I know that the election is coming up in a couple of weeks, and there's 3 candidates here running for mayor. There's also some city council members. I hope that you will take this to heed and start listening to the renters, start listening to the working class people in this community. This Saturday, we are having a day of action, March 22nd. We're going to be meeting at People's Park up here on campus, and we're going to be talking to renters, and we're going to be talking about the issues that they have at their rental complexes, and we invite each and every one of the candidates here and the people that are listening on the internet to please join us and talk to the renters in Normal. Thank you.
That concludes our public comment tonight. Before taking a motion for adjournment, concerns or comments, Ms. Smith?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to highlight for any not-for-profit organizations that missed it, but the town of Normal has opened up the applications for the Harmon Arts grant applications, and the deadline is April 25th. So if you are an arts organization, I encourage you to look online for the Normal il.gov/HAG to find out more about the grant, and so you can meet that deadline. Thank you.
Ms. Lorenz?
Thank you. I suppose on a related note to our speakers here, I want to draw attention to a special showing of a movie that showed about 3 weeks ago, but this will be a second showing of a movie called No Address. And it is to be held on Tuesday, March 25th at 6 p.m. at Heartland Community College, Astroth Community Education Center. I've been looking for a website where you can purchase tickets. Best I can find is to go to Home Sweet Home's Facebook page. Just a bit about that. This movie / documentary of sorts, somewhat of a documentary, is inspired by true events. It follows a young woman forced onto the streets where she navigates harsh realities of survival, alongside makeshift family of outcasts, each with their own story of struggle and resilience. Some of my colleagues watched it when it was played at one of the local theaters here. Unfortunately, I was not able to go, but I plan to go to this one in March and wanted to give it some airtime here tonight.
Further comments or concerns? Motion for adjournment, please.
So moved.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Byers?
Aye.
Ms. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Preston?
Aye.
Mr. McCarthy?
Aye.
Mrs. Lorenz?
Aye.
Ms. Harris?
Aye.
Mayor Kus?
Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you.